Welcome to the May edition of the BBRO BeetCast. I'm Francesca Broom, your host and Knowledge Exchange Manager for BBRO. This month we head over to Thorney to meet Martin Stuffens, farm manager of one of our demo farm sites. We discuss the BBRO trials and also the tribulations of farming this season. Today, Simon and I are over at Park Farm in Thorney. This is going to be one of our demo farm sites, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Martin Stuffens, who's the farm manager here. Martin, before we start talking about the trials work BBRO here and your involvement in that, can you just please tell me about your soil management programme, because this actual site here is looking fantastic.
Yes, so going back to end of last harvest, we've done some test digs on the field just to see if we got any compaction at deeper levels, and we found we had one or two issues, so we went in with the subsoiler straight after harvest, and then we ploughed directly after that, and then we pressed the field down after that as well. So we've got a sort of semi-seedbed done ready for the spring by early September. We have put some lime on. We've got one or two acid holes which we did treat with ground lime.
Yeah, is that because you've got such a good rich fen soil here?
Yes, yeah. But it's sort of just, I think we treated about 4 hectares altogether across the field, so not a vast amount, but we know where the areas are and we do have to keep an eye on them. Yeah,
well, it's good that you actually manage what's going on across the farm, and some people make the mistake of thinking, when you get the subsoil out and you've got to do everything all at once, but you're right, you work on the small parts first.
Yes.
So you...
With the system of drill we've got, which is the tempo, we have tried to see if we could go direct into the seabed in the spring, but what we found over the last 2 winters, we've had so much rain, it's put the seabeds down too tight. So this year we thought we'd give ourselves a bit of leeway. We'd only press the field once and then be prepared to just go in with a light harrow in the spring, which seemed to work well this year. It gives us a bit of flexibility, whereas before they've been going down too tight, and they've not been great seabeds.
Yeah, and when you think about the weather we've had, I mean, though it's been glorious, we're all waiting for rain, but I believe, Simon, we'll go and dig a hole in a minute, but you think there's going to be moisture in the ground, don't you?
I do, yeah. I think, and I think because the seabeds are so good this year for most people, there's nice fine tilth that obviously retains the moisture, whereas in cloddy seed beds just drains away, doesn't it? So actually having that nice kind of fine soil particles will mean the moisture is retained better. So I fully expect there'll be moisture below the initial couple of centimetres of dryness.
Right, well, you go get your spade and we'll go in the field in a moment just to dig a little hole. So Martin, thank you very much for hosting BBRO and the
You're
trials
welcome.
here. This isn't the first time that we've been here for trials, so is it?
No, you was here in 2020 when we had a variety trial, but unfortunately due to COVID came, nobody could come and actually look at them. But it's still interesting to see the trials grow through the year, and especially the year that we had, because we all know it was a bad year for sugar beet, and especially with when the Cercospora came in, it was quite interesting to see that some of the varieties that stood out better and weathered the storm with high disease pressure, so we did get to see some information from that. 2020
we obviously had a lot of virus and Cercospora issues. Did you see a big difference between varieties that we had here?
We seem to do, yes. We did suffer quite badly ourselves, and especially where you had more virus infection, we seem to have a lot higher level of Cercospora as well. But it did help us make some decisions the following year that, yes, some of these varieties did withstand it slightly better than the others. So.
Yeah, and that really takes on to the varietal work that you've been looking at, Simon, is that some varieties are better, have got better resistance, and we need to manage how we actually use varieties for foliar disease, for later harvest, and all of that you're going to be covering at our demo farm.
Absolutely. So, foliar disease susceptibility is important when it comes to perhaps particularly selecting varieties for later harvest dates. But, in some years it's important for normal harvest dates as well. And, the thing we're learning with Cercospora, and of course we mustn't forget about rust and mildew, but Cercospora, it can be incredibly aggressive. And I'm looking at Martin because he's nodding at me, because I remember coming to this site, because I used to come here regularly, in 2020, and the speed it came in, middle of last part of August.
Yeah,
we saw it, but some plots literally were brown to the ground and regrowing. And we mustn't forget how aggressive Cercospora has come in. So I think understanding that risk and being able to time our fungicides in relation to that risk is key. I'm afraid we've perhaps got a bit formulaic about our foliar disease control. We fit it around, well, we'll probably put the first spray on middle of July. It's normally about right. And probably a second one, if we think so, and particularly if I'm going to leave my field for later harvesting. I think we now have a bit more kind of precise about those timings. Because we're not blessed with as many fungicides as we've had in the past, and particularly 2022, we need to manage that. So we need to make sure we're timing at the right point and not going too early, not going too late.
And the 2023 RL that's just been released, that's the first year that we've actually shown the rating for Cercospora, although we didn't have a lot of Cercospora in the field last year, there's not a lot to say about it, is there?
No, so we need to understand that the ratings on the RL list are based on what we find in the RL trials. I think this is why it's really important we do these on-farm demonstration trials. Okay, they're not replicated, but they do allow us to see the varieties in large strips across the field, and actually we're more likely to pick up some disease. And unfortunately, this area often is a bit of a hotspot for Cercospora, often because I think we have tall canopies and we get very warm, and we know high temperatures is one of the key criteria. So it's good we are able to pick up those kind of more severe epidemics where they occur, and obviously that allows us to really test the varieties, and that's the beauty of doing this work.
So you've got your spade there. Let's go in the field and let's just dig a little hole.
I think what I'm keen to have a look at is, obviously it's been very dry, but I think we have some really good seed beds, and there's plenty of moisture there. And we've got a plant here which is probably cotyledons out, first true leaves just coming. But I think when I put that spade in, you'll find, I'm looking too deep. There's plenty of moisture there. Look at that. Look how deep that's going. Yeah, there's plenty of root down there into moisture. Another 3, 4, 5 centimetres, certainly 4 centimetres into moisture, and there's moisture there. But that topsoil, top 2 is dry, so it'd be nice to have some rain, and that helped us break down the cap a little bit as well. But I don't think it's not a severe cap.
And it's great to see that actually the root below the ground is probably longer than the.
Oh yeah, look at it
already.
Look at it. And you can see the fibrous root material. Look at it, it's right down there. It's an amazing ability of a young plant.
Yes.
So don't panic when you only see small leaves on the surface. You've got quite a good deep root system underneath, particularly with the quality of the seed beds. And mine's got a really good seed bed here.
And when did you drill here?
26th of March.
So Martin, do you know what varieties you've got?
Yes, so we've got BT 1915, we've got some Cortessa, and we've got some BTS 3020.
Right. And do you normally sort of spread your risk?
We try to, yes. We're down to 3 varieties this year, but 3 to 4 varieties just to try and spread the risk. Yeah.
And something we're encouraging growers to do, particularly this year, is to make sure they go out and assess their varieties throughout the whole of the season. Don't wait just on the yield at the end of it. Let's see how they perform throughout. Is that something that you would normally do?
Yes, like we're saying, disease is important. It's not just being late lifting sugar beet now. It's keeping on. After seeing the Cercospora problem, what we had in 2020, makes you a lot more aware going forward. Coming into harvest, you can't forget about sugar beet.
Yeah. So what would you say are the key points to go out and have a look at your field?
Well, the health of the plant, keep an eye on disease. Establishment is key early on, and monitor the crops as best you can through the year.
And I know, obviously, Simon, you're out and about quite a lot. Farm assessments both here and all of the demo farm sites.
Yeah, the demo farms keep us real in touch with reality and commercial crops, because obviously we can spend a lot of time looking at trial plots, and we're looking at trying to pick up small differences between treatments. It's really good to come and I benefit from just walking some commercial crops. Here we are on 20th of April. Aphids, as predicted by the forecast, are really beginning to fly, and we've got 3 yellow water pattern traps down there. A lot of insect activity going on, and there's some aphids in there, and it allows us to just kind of sense check what we're seeing sometimes in our experiments. We're going to do some interesting work here with Martin on nitrogen as well. We talked about Cercospora, and these are all key things. We kind of just can look at it at a slightly larger scale, slightly more semi-commercial scale, which is really important, I think, for BBRO.
So tell us a little bit about the nitrogen work that's going on here.
Clearly, with the prices of nitrogen where they are, we need to question whether we need to be at the high rates. We know on that response to a curve, the yield increase between, say, 100 and 120 is very shallow. So when we've got ammonia and nitrogen up at nearly £1,000 a tonne now, we have to question whether there's an economic return. And I think we have been discussing, and we've communicated on that to growers and said we think that is such a shallow increase, we should be cutting back. I think the question is, how low can we go? And actually, and again, demo farms give us a great example to do that. Now, Martin here on his tempo drill, we were placing some nitrogen as well, so we know that's a favoured approach, and we believe nitrogen is used more efficiently, but it does allow us to play some tunes with different amount of nitrogens. And what we're going to do here, we've already done, we're going to have some different amounts of nitrogens which we'll put on at the placement at drilling, and we're going to try and tailor some top dressings, so we'll have a range of nitrogens. I think Martin go from about 70 up to 120, and growers will be able to come and see that and understand what effect it might have. And we think, Martin's asked me already this morning, do you think we can cut back our top dressing even more? But I think at around 100, I think you're just about right. And I think that's what most growers are doing, cutting back 20 or 30 kilos. Of course, many growers are suddenly realising, well, I was putting 140 anyhow, which they shouldn't have been, of course. It's not our recommendation, but actually get them to now realise actually they can cut back can represent quite a big saving. So we're doing that work. We did a soil mineral nitrogen test in this soil pre-drilling, and that indicated there was between 60 and 70 kilos of nitrogen already there, which was good. It just reflects slightly organic nature of the soil, doesn't it? And possibly the fact it's had a minimal disturbance as well, so you've not lost and not accelerated a loss of microbial conversion and lost it. So that's quite good. So we mustn't forget that. So understand what you've got in the soil. You can do that on previous cropping, of course, but sometimes if you're not sure, take a soil mineral nitrogen test as we did here, and then think about what you need to put on. Of course, obviously, the use of manures and cover crops can all help to contribute to nitrogen, particularly on mineral soils. And we know from work we've done, even a cover crop, a good legume cover crop, cover or vetch, can put another 30 or 40 kilos of nitrogen in if you get that right. That's worth an awful lot now, isn't it? Yeah. So we must think about what else we can do to help out. Sugar beets tends to be a low nitrogen crop anyhow, but if we can take it down to 100, even to 90, big area, that's a significant saving, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Martin, can you remember what was in the field prior?
It's winter wheat, yeah.
What was the general rotation on the farm?
Well, so we're trying to push the sugar beet out to at least a minimum of 6 years in the rotation if we can, and we're actually trying to bring some of our more bodied and heavy land into it to push the rotation out more. We feel that the machinery we've got, the harvesting ability and the loading facilities, it's enabling us to do that more. So some of this land probably hasn't had sugar beet on for 20 years, but if we can bring that back in and manage it in a smaller area each year, it's hoping to take the risk off the lighter lands and give them a longer rest if we can.
So you've actually kept your contract about the same size, but you're spreading it across the farm.
Yes.
And what else is in the actual rotation for you?
We grow a mixture of crops really. A percentage of oilseed rape, a large percentage of our winter brown mustard. We're just trying some winter white mustard as well this year. We grow peas and beans, spring barley. We grow a block of maize for the dairy. And then some odd fields of, when they come in the rotation, they're rented out for potatoes or onions. So try and keep it diverse, and obviously winter wheat's the biggest crop still here on the farm. But we'll have plenty of break crops, but we have pushed them out a little bit more if we can.
There's a key word, Martin, to use there, which we're increasingly realising is diversity. Diverse rotations, particularly in all the work we've done and through the soil project. Diverse rotations always pretty much associated with healthier soils, just having that range of crops. And I think it's kind of stating some obvious facts, but it's actually very highly relevant now, I think, in terms of actually getting our soils to perform better for us, particularly with less inputs.
And we're going to see the impact as growers be invited to come and see this. I think we're here on the 12th of May. This is one of 4 events that we'll actually be hosting. But the beet might be small at the moment, but another 3-4 weeks we should see enough to be visible.
I'm hoping we'll be 6-8 leaf stage. We need a bit of rain, of course, just to kind of substitute what the crop's going to take out in the next few weeks. But I think we'll be surprised. And let's not remind ourselves what it did last year. We had a dry period last year.
We had a very cold April, didn't we?
And it grew literally in 3 or 4 weeks. We got the canopy out. And I think, again, reinforcing the importance of that early development for sugar beets is critical to yields, which is why so many crops did well last year. But this year we're even better seed beds, actually. So the potential of them to do that, to go really quickly. Soils are nice and warm now. They'll be 10 degrees easily, I would imagine. And once those roots get going, when they first come through the ground, they always kind of go through this kind of pause, which everybody alarmed. They don't do a lot, and they look a bit yellow and pale. And then the roots get out, because that's because the plant's doing a lot of underground development and exploration. succession. And when those roots start picking up the moisture and the nutrients, they will go.
Yeah. But of course, the main point of us coming early this year is not so much about the crop, but it's actually going to be the aphid watch, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So we're going to have Mark on hand to talk to growers to make sure that we realise the importance of monitoring the situation this year, and if threshold is reached, that they do treat. Just check with you, Martin, are we treated seed here?
Yes, we are. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and you've done that for the whole of the farm?
Yes, yeah.
So but our untreated strips, all our variety strips are not treated. So it might be interesting to see. We don't know.
Yeah.
But, what I'm seeing today with aphids clearly landing, and Mark's getting a lot of phone calls today. Here we are, just 20th April. We're right at that cusp. So non-treated crops need to be looked at as of now, really, which is what we've been saying, because that was the forecast, wasn't it?
Yeah. And obviously we know that there are some areas that are already seeing aphids in the crop. By the time this goes out on the 1st of May, we are expecting more and more people to report them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we will be seeing them here, and probably, if we've reached threshold, it may even have had a spray before.
Possibly.
But let's not dwell on possible negatives at this point. As we're here, Martin, perhaps you could just give us a bit of a view. Is there anything else on the farm that you think would be of interest to growers?
Most of it's been ploughed and pressed, but one field we did do we subsoiled top down. That was quite interesting, that it held the moisture back more. It was baled. So I thought it was spring barley, it was quite a thick crop of straw, so we baled the straw off, subsoiled it, went in with the top down, and I didn't press it. I thought, we'll leave it. It was in pretty good order from the DD rings on the back of the machine. But come spring, we had to leave it till last to drill it.
Oh,
interesting.
Okay.
That was just an observation, but whether it's because the straw was still in the top, but it went dead in a way. It didn't sit as nicely as the ploughed and pressed land. We was hoping to try and do a bit more of the top down, just to reduce. Obviously, with diesel being where it is, it's a cheaper operation than ploughing and pressing. But it was, it's come all right, and the establishment's coming, but it was just noticeable at drilling. It was wetter. We hadn't had that much rain, but we seemed to have that rain sort of middle of March.
And when you ploughed pre-Christmas, did you? Yeah.
Oh, it's ploughed in August.
August, yeah. So
it's
nice
gone by, everything was done by early September.
So logic suggests it probably did have more time to just kind of have some.
But that was done early August, early September as well, in good condition. And I thought, this is looking all right. But come spring, it didn't seem to have the life in it.
Mama, I think that's a good point, because I think everybody there's a view that everything has to go to kind of non-ploughing. Mm-hmm. I don't subscribe to that view. I think, and what we have to learn is in certain situations we have to deploy perhaps different strategies.
Yes.
Which means to you might have some land, I'm not going to do that, some land you do. But at the moment there seems to be kind of, it's either all or nothing. And I think we need to be very wary of saying we all have to go down this route.
And we've found the same. We've found, on heavy land, this is what trying to get your head around. We've tried direct drilling before, we've tried different methods, but it seems to be there's a balance between direct drilling and ploughing, but if you're doing something, it seems to give you a little bit more to work with.
Absolutely.
Whereas doing nothing, we seem to be struggling.
Yeah, I agree.
And an interesting thing this year, we've had a lot of regrowth in the fields, probably from the spring seals that we're growing, and they probably got away from us a little bit. We didn't get them sprayed off quite as early as we should have done, probably. In January, we should have been doing a bit more, then the weather changed and we seemed to lose 2 weeks. And we seem to have a lot of crop growth, which you can see here. And it's took a lot of dealing with, and it's hung on to the moisture more. Yeah. So this is just my little worry going forward. If we have got to have these cover crops over the winter, how we deal with them, get rid of them, so we can come to work in the spring. So there's quite a lot to learn.
And when we're learning alongside you, the projects that we're actually doing. You mentioned the cost of fuel at the moment, and I'm sure that most of the listeners are feeling your pain on that side. Mm-hmm. Is there any other things or elements you've done within the farm business to try and reduce your fuel costs?
Well, I think we've always tried to not waste fuel, even when it was at the lower prices. We've always been conscious of it. So, there's operations that we try and reduce where we can. It's a balance between min-till, direct drilling and ploughing, isn't it? And it's what suits your farm and your soil types at the time as well, isn't it?
So, despite the fuel crisis, there's at times you cannot make those reductions. You need to do what's best for the soil, don't you? Because it's the
yes.
long-term outcome that you really got to manage, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we have reduced the amount of ploughing we do, but we still keep that in the rotation where we can. Still for the sugar beet and for the peas, where I think the other crops we can seem to get away with. But peas, we have tried one field of top down for the peas this year, and again that was as a contrast between the peas that was after the top down and the ploughed seabed for the peas. The top down was wetter again.
Yeah.
And peas are one of the sensitive crops we've got, so they soon tell you if you're doing something wrong. So we're still reluctant to drop the plough on those, though we did try this one field to see how we get on this year. But yeah.
Be a case of watch and wait then.
Yes.
So thank you ever so much for hosting us here.
You're welcome.
Martin, this year, and I hope growers will appreciate the work that's gone into this field. There's certainly going to be a lot to see. And thank you much for your time today, and for you, Simon, too.
Not at all.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed today's BeetCast but would like to know more, then please do drop into our demo farm events. First one's the 12th of May at Park Farm Thorney. Then we're 13th of May at Ewbrink Farm Kings Lynn, 17th at Bracebridge Lincolnshire, and 18th at Firstfield Diss. And we are also going to be joined by UPL at both the Bracebridge and Firstfield events. Please do book via the BBRO website, bbro.co.uk/events. Thank you for listening.